Alright, I'm back again, and there's been some big news today on the Trump front. This is Monday. The Republican convention kicked off today, and Donald Trump is officially the Republican nominee for president in 2024. He announced his running mate is J.D. Vance. I don't know who that is, truth be told. I don't know if that would have been... Since I don't know anything about him, I can't say if he would have been my type of choice. He's young, that's for sure. But I don't know if, I would have looked for someone that could have drawn some minority votes in, and I don't see that happening. A young white guy, I don't know how well that'll do, truth be told. Maybe I'm wrong. Like I said, I don't know enough about him to know how that will affect anything. Also on the big news front is that not only is he the nominee, not only do we know who his running mate is, the classified documents case has been dismissed. This is because they said that there was, they needed Senate permission to have actually gone after him for this, which he didn't have, therefore it was thrown out. As I've said many times before, that was the one case that worried me more than any other case as far as his presidential run. And it got dismissed for basically lack of following the proper paperwork. They most likely will appeal, but chances of anything happening before November's election is slim to none. Even if it was expedited, it's highly unlikely. So now that we've gone out of this, I've got some more thoughts on the attempt to take Trump out this past Saturday. A lot of information has been coming out, and it's questionable how much of it is accurate. I'll have all kinds of links down below for all this stuff. I have seen videos where they've synced up videos pointing out where he was on the roof to people between that and when the shooting started, and it was like 2 minutes. That's not acceptable, especially when you had snipers on the roof of the building above Trump looking through their scopes at the dude. You can see that for yourself. Supposedly they had a beat on him for like 45 seconds before the shooting started, but they were not given permission to shoot. That is being disputed. Some were saying that they didn't need the permission to shoot. They could have gone ahead and done so. Word is that the roof of the building was considered a high security risk, yet they did nothing to secure it. Also, word is that a local officer went up there and saw the guy, and they pointed the rifle at him, and he said, "Screw it," and got down and left. The officer. I will have links to this stuff so you can see where I'm getting my information. There's images of a female Secret Service officer who was hiding behind him, ducked down behind him. Not good when your job is to protect him with your life and you're using him as a human shield. Trust me, I know how that feels. I've been there, done that myself. Been the human shield, that is. And let's look at the other side of it. This was the same woman who was having issues holstering her gun as he was getting back into the SUV. If you can't reholster your weapon, your sidearm, when you're under duress, Secret Service may not be the correct line of work for you on a presidential detail at that. Maybe as a paper pusher, but not the presidential detail. Some people are trying to let on like this was an inside job. I don't believe it was. I don't believe this was like a MK Ultra type deal. What I believe this was, and I have alluded to this before, is, this kid was 20 years old. That means he was born after Bush Gore. Every other year, when there was an election, there was just vitriol that was spewed out from both sides, with the intent of just trying to piss people off so that they would be driven to come out and vote for them. Like I said, both sides are guilty of this, including Trump and his family. And then you wonder why he felt inspired and drawn to do something like this. No, it makes sense. How long, and I said this about the January 6ers, how long can you hear things like, this is the most important election in our history? Our way of life, our democracy, our freedom is at risk. If I'm not elected, life as we know it will cease to exist. How many times have you heard stuff like that? How many times have you heard stuff like that already? Likening to Hitler, to fascists. I've been called a fascist just because I want less government. I want a government so small you don't realize it exists in your day-to-day life. And I've been called a fascist for that. So you take someone who has heard crap like that his entire life. Maybe his brain is wired a little bit different. I don't know. I know nothing about this dude. And then one day something happens, a switch gets flipped during an election cycle, and what happens? Something like this. It's not the conditioning that you would expect from the tradition, from clandestine operations. It's just social conditioning is building a reflex in the people to react a certain way, by instilling fear that you're causing a trigger to promote violence is what's happening. And there's nothing, even if we were to demand better from our politicians, from our news media, and so on and so forth, because when you look at it, we are being bombarded by the negativity all around us. Traditional news media, social media, from our politicians, it's everywhere. We can't escape it. So yeah, it takes a toll. It builds up, it takes its toll. That's where we're at now. And yes, the way the Secret Service handled everything was atrocious. Heads should roll at this point. The head of the Secret Service should be stepping down. That's how unacceptable what just the response was on so many fronts. Let's just say this was not, they didn't do it. If they allowed it to happen on purpose in hopes that he'd be taken out, they need to be prosecuted. But I'm not saying that's what happened. I think that level of ineptitude is involved. When the time was made to make the difficult decision, they couldn't do it. They couldn't execute a plan. And that is unacceptable. Whether you like Trump or not, that level, for someone who is supposed to be protecting someone of that level, to be that way, to perform that way, is not acceptable. So let's see what turns out now. Now that the Republicans have their nominee cinched in, we turn our eyes to the Democrat convention. We'll see what happens with Joe Biden. Does he remain defiant and decide to stay in? Or does he drop out? If he drops out, who will replace him? The Republicans have their pick. They are uniting under him. I'm curious to see what's going to happen. All eyes at this point are on Joe Biden and the Democrat convention. Let me know what you think. Like I said, I've covered quite a bit, and I'll try to have links to all of that in the description below. What do you think about Trump's vice president pick? I don't have an opinion one way or another. But I think things just for some reason, I can't help but think things have gotten a little bit more interesting just today. We'll see what happens with some of his other trials too. Later.